Introduction to the story. Welcome to a tale that delves deep into the heart of the unknown, a story designed to send shivers down your spine as you drift into the quiet embrace of sleep. Tonight, we journey into the shadows of the silent pines, a forest cloaked in mystery and legend, where the whispers of the wind carry tales of those who dared to venture too far. In this chilling narrative, three friends set out on a wild camping adventure, seeking the thrill of the wilderness. But what begins as an exciting escape into nature quickly transforms into a nightmare as they uncover the dark secrets lurking within the woods. So, dim the lights, close your eyes, and let the steady rhythm of rain carry you into this haunting experience. But be warned, this is no ordinary bedtime story. This is a journey into fear, suspense, and the unknown. Are you ready to face the forest's shadows? Let the story begin. The forest was alive in a way that felt unnatural to Sarah, Jake, and Alex. The trio had hiked deep into the woods, their gear heavy on their backs but their spirits high. They were seasoned campers, each having explored various trails and terrains. But this forest, known to locals as the Silent Pines, was unlike anything they'd encountered before. By the time they reached a clearing, the sun had already dipped below the horizon. Long shadows stretched across the ground, and the thick canopy above allowed only slivers of moonlight to penetrate. The air was cool, damp, and thick with the earthy scent of moss and pine. "This is it," Alex declared, dropping his pack with a relieved sigh. "Perfect spot to set up camp." Sarah glanced around, her instincts prickling. "It's a little too quiet, don't you think?" Jake chuckled as he unrolled his sleeping bag. "That's the point, Sarah. No traffic noise, no buzzing phones, just us and the wild." But Sarah couldn't shake her unease. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was oppressive, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. They worked quickly to set up their tents and build a fire. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the surrounding trees, creating shapes that seemed to twist and writhe. Jake was the first to break the silence, pulling out a bag of marshmallows and skewers. "All right," he said, grinning. "Who's ready for some ghost stories?" Alex groaned. "Do we have to?" "Every time, Jake." "Come on, it's tradition," Jake argued, his eyes gleaming mischievously. "And we're in the perfect setting. Look around. This place practically begs for a good scare." Reluctantly, Alex and Sarah agreed. Jake leaned closer to the fire, his face lit by its glow, and began weaving a tale about a hunter who had disappeared in these very woods decades ago. "They say his ghost still roams the forest," Jake said, lowering his voice dramatically. "He's searching for his prey, but he's not human anymore. His eyes are hollow, his face pale as the moon, and if he finds you, he'll—" A sharp crack in the woods cut Jake off mid-sentence. The three of them froze, the air suddenly heavy with tension. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Alex nodded, his hand instinctively reaching for the small hatchet he always carried on camping trips. "Probably just a deer or something," Jake muttered, suddenly less enthusiastic about his ghost story. They listened intently, straining to hear over the crackle of the fire. The sound came again, a deliberate snap, closer this time. It wasn't the random rustling of an animal foraging. It was the sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, moving through the underbrush. "Guys," Sarah whispered. "We're not alone." Jake grabbed a flashlight and shone it into the darkness. The beam cut through the night, revealing only trees and shadows. "Hello?" he called, his voice wavering. "Is someone there?" No response. "Maybe it's just another camper," Alex suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. "Someone passing through." "Then why wouldn't they say anything?" Sarah countered, her eyes darting nervously. The footsteps stopped. The forest was deathly silent again, but the group's unease only grew. Sarah suddenly noticed something strange. The usual sounds of the forest, crickets, rustling leaves, the occasional hoot of an owl, had completely vanished. Jake lowered his flashlight, his face pale. "We should get inside the tents," he said quietly. Alex shook his head. "No way, if someone's out there we need to know, we can't just hide." But before they could decide on their next move, the fire flickered violently, as if a gust of wind had blown through the clearing. Except there was no wind. Sarah screamed as a dark figure emerged from the shadows, standing just at the edge of the firelight. It was tall, unnaturally so, with limbs that seemed too long for its body. Its face was obscured, but its eyes, empty, black voids, seemed to bore into each of them. Jake fumbled with the flashlight, pointing it at the figure, but the beam flickered and died. Panic surged through the group as the creature stepped closer, its movements unnervingly smooth, like it was gliding over the ground. "Run!" Alex shouted, grabbing Sarah's arm and pulling her toward the path they had come from. They bolted into the woods, their breaths ragged and hearts pounding. The forest, once silent, now erupted with noise. Branches snapping, leaves rustling, and an unearthly sound like a low growl or a deep, guttural laugh. Sarah glanced back and immediately regretted it. The creature was following them, moving faster than seemed possible. Its long limbs reached out, almost brushing against the trees as it pursued them. "Keep going," Alex yelled, his voice strained. The trio ran until their lungs burned and their legs felt like they would give out. Finally, they stumbled into another clearing, collapsing to the ground in exhaustion. The sounds of pursuit had stopped, but none of them dared to believe they were safe. "Is it gone?" Jake gasped, clutching his side. "I don't know," Sarah whispered, her eyes scanning the darkness. Before anyone could answer, the clouds above parted, allowing a sliver of moonlight to illuminate the clearing. That's when they saw it. Etched into the ground in a circle around them were strange ancient symbols glowing faintly in the pale light. What is this?" Alex stammered, backing away from the markings. Sarah's voice was barely audible. I think we're in its territory." As if on cue, the growling sound returned, louder and more menacing. The creature stepped into the clearing, its form fully visible in the moonlight. Its face was a grotesque mockery of a human's, with features that seemed to shift and writhe like shadows caught in a breeze. It opened its mouth, and a low, guttural voice echoed in their minds, not spoken aloud, but as if it were invading their thoughts. Leave, or stay forever. The friends didn't need to be told twice. Summoning the last of their strength, they sprinted back the way they came, the creature's growls fading behind them. When they finally emerged from the forest, the first rays of dawn breaking over the horizon, they collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. None of them spoke as they packed their gear and left the area, the weight of what they had experienced, too heavy to put into words. From that day on, they never ventured into the woods again. The silent pines kept its secrets, and the friends carried its horrors with them, a reminder of the thin line between adventure and terror. In a small village, a cat named Whiskers discovered a magic fish in a pond. The fish promised 3 wishes in exchange for its freedom. Whiskers wished for endless fish, a cozy bed, and a bell that rang softly. The fish granted all 3 wishes and swam away, leaving Whiskers content and purring in the sun.